Welcome to Remembering Your Oneness with Xane Daniel and Monika Kupiec, where we know everything, and so do you. Hello.
Aloha.
Welcome to another week. You know what? Are we on like episode 21 now? I think we are, or at least maybe we're on 20. Maybe today is the 20th episode of Remembering Our Oneness with Xane and Monika. Do you know?
I hate to break it to you. We're actually on like 23 or 24.
23. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Well, so there's no celebration of our 20th episode.
We actually missed it because we don't keep track.
Right. Yeah. There's no number at the bottom of our thing. Yeah. We probably should do that maybe so people can watch them in order because they're so sequential. You have to be able to watch the previous ones.
I think it's 22.
22? Oh, that's a good one to celebrate. That's like an angel number kind of thing going on there.
22 is a good number.
Yeah.
Why did you want to care for a number?
I don't know. I just thought it would be fun to say, actually, and if you think about it, like how long have we been doing this now?
We're actually on 24. We're on 24.
24. Okay.
24. We're just skipping time now.
Yeah. All right. So, we've been doing this for 6 months. Can you believe we've been doing this for 6 months? Like, it does not feel like that at all.
Half a year. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy and great.
And I still barely know you.
I know, it does feel that way, right? Yeah. Yep. All right. That's it.
So we are starting our podcast today. We are talking about, what are we talking about today, Xane?
We're talking about...
Because I only found out like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, you were busy this morning, and so was I. I'm talking about soul confidence. We're talking about soul confidence. Good afternoon, Sam Beadle. Soul confidence is a concept that is, it does exist in metaphysics, but it's never been given a name as far as I know. So if anybody watching, once I describe what it is and you say, oh yeah, that's called something else, then that's fine. But ultimately, if you think about the main concept of metaphysics is that we choose this life. We choose our parents, we choose our situation. And we talked about this before, I'm sure. And that is looking at astrology. Your astrological chart tells you so much about what your life is going to be like. It tells you whether you're going to be wealthy or whether you're going to be poor, whether you're going to have good relationships or you're going to have addiction issues, or on and on. It's all written in your astrology. So I've often thought of it as, okay, before we come here, we go through and we go, I'm going to pick my parents, I'm going to pick my situation to some degree, and I'm going to page through all the astrological info so that I can go, oh yeah, this incarnation would be a great one for me to have these sorts of experiences that I want to have this time around. And so when we do this, the challenges that we've chosen, we often go, oh my gosh, why would I ever choose this? Like, this was horrible. Like, I was abused as a kid, or I had these trauma things happen, or I had this horrible romantic relationship with terrible abuse or whatever, on and on. And so we think, there's no way I would have chosen this for myself. Like, there's just, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, that's true suffering. Why would I choose suffering? Why wouldn't I choose thriving? Why wouldn't I choose happiness? And why wouldn't I choose like an easy life? And, and so this is a big topic, right? We are already like exploding the possibilities to discuss this. But the main concept of soul confidence is that when you chose all of these things, you had immense confidence that you're going to be able to handle it, that you're going to be able to do it, that you're going to be able to transcend it, that all of this. And the other aspect of it is that that this incarnated life is very short. It is a blip in comparison to your infinite existence. So jumping into a very difficult life is no big deal. It's like, oh, okay, this is only going to be 80, 90 years, at most, which is absolutely nothing when you exist infinitely. So let's do this. So that's the main what's the concept? That's the word. That's the main concept of soul confidence, and bringing that soul confidence with us into this life when we're facing these things and we're going, oh my gosh, this is going to be so challenging and this is so difficult, and my mother is horrible, my father is horrible, my bosses are horrible, whatever. Like, oh yeah, but my soul confidence had a lot of that in me. So I should just have that soul confidence that I can handle it, that I can figure it out, that I can make it through, that I can thrive and succeed or whatever. And instead of going like, oh no, what did I do this for? Go, I'm ready. I can handle it.
It's like bringing your personal power in and really just owning up to what is presented to you in the moment type of thing.
Yes.
It's nice. So how did this concept come about? Like, did you have a dream about this, or how did you come up with soul confidence?
Yeah, so that came up because I was actually talking to the person I'm staying with right now here in Portland, and I was describing this concept, or just talking about the concept, but I didn't have a name for it. And she just blurted out, soul confidence. I was like, yes, that is it. so then I've just added it to my teachings now, and I'll probably be adding it to my class, and so on. So I really do think that when we look at our lives with that, what you called it, like personal power, right? When we look at our lives with that personal power, then we can overcome so much. But when we don't look at it with that personal power, we look at ourselves as the victim, we look at everything else as more powerful than us, then it's much more challenging to handle everyday life.
So what would the first step of having some more soul confidence entail?
Yeah, the first step is really understanding the metaphysics behind it. It's to really gather that in and trust in that, and know that that is absolutely what has happened, and that that you've made all of those choices, that you've decided to come here and have all these experiences, and that can be not just what I've said, but so much more too. It's looking at everything and knowing that, hey, you know what? I've been everyone. I am the moss on the trees. I am the ground that I walk on. I am the stars. I am all of these things. And look at all the things that they've dealt with. Look at all the things that every individual, every animal, every human has dealt with, and realize that this is just a blip of a moment that I'm dealing with in this particular incarnation. And now I'm going to be that squirrel after this, and I'm going to be the thriving person, the person that we look at and we say, oh my gosh, they've got it all. They've got the money, they've got the family, they've got all this stuff. And then you be them and you're like, oh, well, actually, this isn't that awesome either. So like, understanding and recognizing that the challenges of these lives that we're in are just as valuable and just as beautiful and just as worth coming here to experience as the successes and the happiness. So that's step one. Like, get it, really take it in, really believe it, really know it, and then you're going to ask me what step two is, and then it's to get excited about those challenges, to go, all right, so these are the ones that I've chosen for myself, so I wonder why I did that. And you don't have to know why. You don't have to try to figure out why, because maybe you'll never know that why-ness in this particular incarnation. So it's not as important, but to actually go ahead and say, all right, maybe it's for this. Let's try to learn this about myself. Let's try to learn this about the how else I can grow, and get excited about that growth and that expansion.
Okay. So essentially, it's just really just gaining more confidence within yourself and the knowing of your true self or your oneness. Again, with the whole remembering our oneness type of concept.
Exactly.
It's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like a nice refreshing name for it, soul confidence.
Mhm.
Which is really cool. I like that.
Thanks. Yeah, and stepping into that higher self version of yourself. I might say that step 3 then is to go, all right, well, look at this incarnation as just this amazing tool for your
Mhm.
true self, which is your higher self. Like, oh, okay, I'm observing this world, I'm observing all these experiences, I'm observing these lives, and this little life that I've chosen right now that feels like everything is just a little version of me. And I am this all-knowing, because what, we know everything, right? And so does everyone else. This all-knowing version of yourself that is just looking at this little life and going, oh wow, I'm really making a big deal out of that little life's perspective. I don't really have
Mhm.
to do that. That's just one perspective. And so stepping back and seeing yourself as your higher self gives you that soul confidence. It gives you that ability to not take things so seriously. It's to, because that's the thing too. When we worry about current events, or we worry about the suffering that's going on in the world, the abuse that's going on in the world, the oppression, or the whatever, then we're looking at the world as so huge and so important and so massive and so difficult to overcome or handle, or oh my gosh, it's everything. But it's not. It's like
Mhm.
practically nothing in comparison to who you are as your higher self. Even in comparison to the rest of the universe, we are on a tiny little rock on the outskirts of a tiny little galaxy, on the outskirts of billions of galaxies. Like, we look at this earth and the things that have happened on this earth as super massive and super important. But even in the 3D world, it's nothing. But then we talk about all the dimensions and all of our dimensional selves, and it's really, really nothing. So that helps us gain some perspective. It helps us not take things so seriously and beat ourselves up over mistakes that we've made, or get so upset about current events or whatever, so that we can truly just glide through this experience no matter what happens to us. And that is extremely powerful.
Yeah. I remember when I was, starting my spiritual, I guess, journey, you can call it, or at least when my interest in diving into myself was more, I guess, a priority in a way. But I just was really interested in like learning. Um, I guess I first started to dive into my soul confidence through like books. So I'd read a lot of like metaphysical books or like spiritual books or even biographies of people that like have gone through like their like awakenings. And it always just drove my curiosity in it all. So like for me, I think my soul confidence came through with my curiosity of just wanting to know and understand more of myself, and just to kind of like see what kind of presents itself, like what kind of lessons am I going to learn today or this week or this month, or what is this new opportunity going to like bring me. But it definitely started for me with books and guidance, because you can't just like, oh, like let me just tap into my source and figure this out. Like, okay, I understand my oneness now, so now I can come back to the spot. Like, you gotta have like, you can't just like tell people like, oh yeah, just just remember yourself. But I feel like for you, you had it through ayahuasca. Like
Mhm.
I had mine through just like self learning about it. I actually turned vegetarian when I was like 14 through like health reasons. So I was going to like a practitioner that was guiding me. She did like Reiki sessions on me, and I just started to get introduced to it that way. So I feel
Mhm.
like people always need like a physical guide or something like that to first kickstart it. I think it would be very hard to do it on your own, or trying to sit and meditate and like figure it out. I feel like there's always got to be a like, not necessarily a substance, but like you know, like whether it's a book or a
Yeah,
substance or a
yeah,
person or some sort of thing
the
to like
internet.
spark. Yeah, or like a near
Right,
death experience. Because I had, I mean,
right.
when I cracked my head open surfing, like, yeah, I had like another like awakening in that, like a
Hmm.
greater appreciation for my body and for life itself. It's like you could literally die any moment, and are you actually truly happy and living your life to the fullest? If you did die, like, would I be happy or would I be missing out on some things? So I feel like the soul confidence, it's like it's kind of like hard. It's not necessarily hard to grasp, but I feel like there's a bunch of steps before it to actually like understand it or to get to it, because I feel like my soul confidence didn't kick in until like years after I started my journey. It's definitely like an embodiment that you'll eventually achieve. It's not like it's enlightenment or anything like that, but I feel like it is definitely a taste of enlightenment with having a soul confidence. Um, if you want to
Yeah.
add to
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, I kind of do. Well, actually, Onion Man just asked this kind of great question, sort of. It's hard to grasp the concept that we can't really make a mistake, because that is part of soul confidence, is that you're never going to make a mistake. It's impossible to make a mistake. Everything that you'll ever do will always work out exactly as it's supposed to, for growth or for learning or whatever. So he's been feeling the weight of making a big mistake, okay, in the past 2 days. So a big mistake, okay, so that's a judgment. That's the thing. Mistakes are judgments, and they're judgments made by our limited 3D minds. When we decide that we've made a mistake, then we have the judgment that we could have done something better. Oh, what's better? Oh, better is a judgment also. So what is better? If you hadn't done this thing, I'm going to guess what it is, Onion Man. If you hadn't done this thing that hurt someone else, if you hadn't done this thing that hurt someone else, then that would have been better. But it could be, and I want you to open your mind to the possibility that it was actually better that you made the mistake. That because maybe by hurting that person, you've learned something that you're going to grow from, and that person has learned something that they're going to grow from. It could be that if it was a hurting someone else, and so they've decided to disown you, that had you been together in some way moving
Mhm.
forward, it wouldn't have been as good of a growth opportunity as it will be now that you're separate. I mean, again, I just picked a random possibility for what the thing is, the mistake that you made. But in every case, you can trust that the thing that happened is better than the alternative. Because also you can say, all right, so my girlfriend broke up with me yesterday. Okay, so she broke up with me yesterday, and things are miserable, and I hate my life, and I messed up, and I failed, and all of this. And you can really look at it as this big thing. Boy, if I hadn't done this thing, and if I hadn't done that thing, then she wouldn't have broken up with me. Those are huge mistakes that I've made. But then when you look at it a month later, you go, oh, okay, well, maybe, if I'd been still with her, then I wouldn't have had this opportunity, or I wouldn't have met this person, or I wouldn't have done this thing. So, maybe there's a little bit of benefit to that. I can give it that to make myself feel better. But then 6 months, a year, 6 years, 10 years, you can look back and go, oh my gosh, that was actually a really, really good thing that she broke up with me. My life is so much different now, and I'm really glad that it is. So there's a giant opportunity that anytime something bad happens, some mistake that you've made occurs, then you can always trust that in time you'll be able to look back on it, and it will have been for the best. Remember, that's a judgment. All of it's a judgment. So you're trying to get to the positive judgment, which once you understand that that's what's happening, then none of it's necessary, and you can go, oh, all right, it's all going to work out. It always does. So good on me for that mistake.
Yeah. I think you also just gotta mourn a little bit too that you made that mistake, just feel it
Sure.
out. Like
Yeah.
it's totally normal. It's we're human. I still get that too, that I feel like I made mistakes. but eventually I forgive it, and something else then returns once I start forgiving it, or once I start being more present in whatever I'm doing, because I already made the mistake. So I kind of just have to flow with it. So it honestly could have just steered you to make that mistake, so that way something else opens up. Like the same examples that you were making, Xane, with like someone breaks up with you. Well, maybe like in 6 months or so, you're going to meet someone else that's even better. But you were prepared. That relationship prepared you for this new one. So this mistake is probably just preparing you for either your next mistake or for your next opportunity that you're going to have. So
I love that. This mistake is preparing you for your next mistake. It's a very like horrible, like negative sort of sounding way to look at it, but it actually isn't, because again, you can look at anything as a mistake. It's a mistake that I started this podcast with you, Monika. Actually, biggest mistake of my entire life, right? Like, what? That's dumb, right? Like that is totally a judgment. That is me making stuff up, and it can be a judgment, and it is a judgment every single time.
Yeah. So it's like soul confidence and judgment is like a big lesson. Judgment, like you gotta really just trust. It's really just about inner trust and that inner knowing, like okay, I made this mistake, but let me just move forward with my day. Let me just continue my activities. Like maybe it's something super bad, but something's gonna come out of it. Time will obviously tell, but right now it's like just take care of yourself. If this mistake is still bothering you, make sure you're still eating, make sure you're still drinking water, taking care of yourself. You're not just like laying around in bed and just like, oh my god, I can't believe I still did this. Like your day continues even though you did it. There's people around you that still love you, so reach out to them for comfort. That's really the best thing that you can do if you are kind of in a bubble of, oh my god, I made this mistake.
Yes. Yeah, a friend of mine, his name is Adam Marsh. He has the Martian Circus, and he goes around and goes to festivals, and he does like black lights are all over the place, and he does glow in the dark paints and everything, and he paints clothing. Mm-hmm. So you go and you put on all this crazy, black light clothing, and it looks amazing, right? And but he has this one stamp or stencil that then he puts on people's chest. Like anybody walks up and says, "Hey, can paint my clothes?" and he'll go, "Okay." And he grabs this stencil, and my favorite stencil is, it just says "loved." And spray paints it on everybody. And that is just a reminder that we are all loved. Every person is loved by someone, always. And so when you put on that shirt, hey, today I'm loved. I know that I'm loved. Even if I made a mistake, I am still loved. I like that.
Yeah. And then Sam asked if I had any book recommendations. If you want, the first book that I read was, or at least one of the first books that kind of ignited my interest it's called The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. So that one was my first one, and it kind of just, it led me to something else, and it led me to more. So that would be my first recommendation. If you haven't read The Alchemist is always really great. I think I've read it like 5 times, and I always just pick something else, get a new message from it every time I read it. Yeah. Sometimes I reread it, I'm like, did I really read this? Like, I don't remember this section. I don't remember this part. So definitely, I would say those 2 books are really good. And then with the Disappearance of the Universe book, I've given it to a lot of people, but not a lot of people actually like open it to read it. So maybe it's pretty heavy. So see if it resonates with you. If it doesn't, then it doesn't, then carry on. It's not like it's a mistake that I'm giving you this recommendation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a terrible mistake. I can't believe you just recommended that. Oh man, what is this?
Yeah, and then I love Osho. Anything with Osho, Osho. I love Osho. Any book. I think the one that I've read when I was younger was the Book of Wisdom. That one is a thicker one, but it has a lot of great concepts. I was just rereading it. It's always on my outdoor couch whenever I like need something to pick up, but like it always has a fun message. And Osho is like, he's got a nice humor, so he's just very like, just says whatever he wants.
Right.
And I like that style. So I would recommend Osho, that Disappearance of the Universe, and The Alchemist. Those are the top 3 that you can start.
Yeah, love it. And then Eduardo's in the house. Thank you, Eduardo, for the $2 super chat. That's awesome. I'm assuming he was talking about our mistake conversation when he said great point. Yeah, lots of folks are saying that they love The Alchemist. Yep, absolutely.
I read a couple other of his books too, and I think it's him, or maybe it's someone else. Was his name Paolo? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he does have other books. So I've read his other books too, and I've always gotten great messages from them.
I forget his last name right now, but
it's Kohol or something. It starts with a C.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, his other books too. I think I once went to like Barnes and Noble. I was like, "Oh, you got more cool books," and then I would usually just like feel one out and like pick one out. But I haven't. Maybe I'll pick up The Alchemist again. But I'm usually always lending my books, so I don't even know if I have that one.
Right. I've only got like a very small selection because I have the van now. So I got rid of most of my possessions. And so I have a tiny little bookshelf. It usually has like 6 books. And then somebody comes along and they say, "Here, I want to give you this book." And I'm like, "Uh-oh, I don't have room." And so I usually go, "Okay, well then take a look at my 6 books. Which one do you want?" And then we do a trade.
So what books are on your nightstand?
Oh, that's a good question. I've got a couple of different books about the chakras. I've got a book about shamanism. I have The Alchemist. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what are you learning? Are you learning about the chakras now more? Because I know you said that you don't really know too much about them.
Well, I reference that book. I don't like read it cover to cover, but if something comes up, then I'll grab it and reference something off of it. So yeah.
Okay, so it's more of like a tool then for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think we were saying before we started, it's about your 3rd chakra, the solar plexus.
Yes.
So you mentioned that in your video, you have an activation for that.
Yeah. So in the video, I've got 2 activations for the soul confidence. One is just your regular confidence. So we're doing your solar plexus. And then the other one is a combination, combining yourself with your higher self. So there's this, we get so wrapped up in our little worlds that we kind of forget that we are these higher beings, these multidimensional beings. So there's an activation in there that allows us to kind of like merge ourselves with that, to help us remember that we are these higher beings, that we are source. So it's an activation to kind of assist with that. I'm getting kind of like a sensation across my forehead right now as I talk about that. And that comes up when the Hathors or whoever multidimensionally is working with me. So they're like, "Yay, we like that." So
just imagine the seal clapping its hands.
Yeah, these are my guides. Are. That's really insulting. They know I'm kidding. They know I'm kidding.
I don't know. It's like a vision that popped into my head. I'm sure it means something, or I don't know. Maybe a seal is trying to communicate with you right now, or with me.
Yeah, I love telling this story. So at one point I was living in Chicago, and I had a house, and I had a dog that was sick, and she was really good about not going in the house. And I came back late one night. I had actually been at an event where I was speaking, and I come in. It was like 11 o'clock, 11:30, and it was in dead of winter, and it was like the wind is coming off the river. The ground is completely frozen with like 3 or 4 inches of snow.
Oh man.
And the wind is bringing snow on me. And I'm just like, I just want to get in this house. Like, I don't want to be out here anymore. I open the door and she shoots out of the house, which she never does. She's always excited to see me, but no, she just bolts out of the house. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's a whippet, and whippets can run really freaking fast. They can run 35 miles an hour, and she doesn't normally get out of the house. So I'm going, it's horrible out and you're running around. And she was running around. She had diarrhea. So she's running around and like pooping, and then running and then pooping some more, and then running and pooping some more. And I'm trying to like get this dog corralled. I have a backyard with a fence that she can go out in, and it's totally safe. But no, she's running around the neighborhood. And so I can't like get her. And so the wind is just horrible. It's just whipping through my clothes. And I'm just sitting there like, this is the most miserable possible situation at this moment. And then I could feel my guides laughing. I could just tell that they thought this was the funniest thing ever. And then I just started laughing like, okay, nice joke. Thanks a lot. Like, this is the situation that I am in. I could have been totally miserable about it. I could have been really upset about it. I could have been all these things. But I just, knowing that, you know, I was going to catch her, she was going to come back to me. She wasn't going to run away. She just had to poop everywhere. And once she was done with that, she was going to get in the house and all was going to be fine. And that's exactly what happened.
So you said like you almost had like, not like an out of body experience, but you kind of just stepped out of the situation and just like, laughed about it.
Right. Yeah. I kind of did step into that higher self. Like, I joined them in their comedy, in their way, the way they were looking at that. And then I have to say one more story that was snow based. I had discovered, you know, I lived next to that river for the longest time, and I really felt a connection with the water. And I think I might have even mentioned that when I was first learning how to do my activations, I activated the entire river, and I felt I haven't talked about that. Okay. So when I was first learning how to do the soul essence activation, I was experimenting on different things. I was trying it on people. I was trying it on animals. And I went, you know, what if I did it on the water? And so I would do it on the water, and I drink the water and I'd feel something, right? So it's like, okay, well, why can't I just do it on the river that's right outside my house? So the other thing I have to explain is that when I do my activations, I feel a sensation in my body that is representative of how many people I've helped, maybe, or how successful it was, or something like that. And I've probably mentioned to you that when I would record it for myself or for the videos for YouTube, that every once in a while I would record it and I would do the activation and I would feel, oh, okay, this is going to be successful. This is going to help some people. And then every once in a while I would do one and I would feel nothing. And I'd be like, what went wrong? Like, what's going on? And then it would turn out that I hadn't hit the record button. So nobody was going to hear that. And so I actually received the feedback that nobody got that. So anyway, when I did it on the river, it was like the most extreme feedback that I've ever gotten up until that point, because it's a river that was going to go and be filtered for drinking. And so people were going to be able to drink that water and have that experience. So, yeah. Oh, cool. Thanks, Sam.
So you, okay. What was the point of this river story again?
Boy, I don't know. Oh, right. I still haven't finished. I'm like going on and on. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I have this connection with the water, and it's really beautiful. And so there was one day that I was driving home to the river, and it was night and it was snowing, but it was like this really beautiful kind of like swirling snow. You know, it wasn't just like sticking and being a pain. It was just like this very thick but yet beautiful whirling, swirling snow in front of my headlights. And I just had this moment where I went, wow, look at all this water. And I don't usually think of snow as water. Like, snow is water, right? Yeah. But as soon as I said that, it was like I had just given an activation to someone. I had this incredible feeling washing up and down my body. And it was almost like the water spirits were like, oh, yay, you recognize that we're water, that we as snow are actually water as well. So just fun little experiences that I've had during my.
Yeah, it's like when you meet another soul and you meet them as they are, and then they get excited too, in a way. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with the snow concept. It's like, oh, you recognize me not for just being this miserable coldness thing, but an actual
Right.
like essential thing.
Yeah,
I
the snow's like,
I
man,
mean,
everybody doesn't like me, but you do, so that's good.
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like an anti-snow person, but like
Well, yeah, you
I
live
don't
in
know.
Hawaii. That'll do
Yeah.
it.
And I mean, I lived in Chicago all my life up until 7 years ago, so I've definitely had my fair share of forgiveness lessons with the snow. I remember the last the last winter before I came here, it snowed like all the way up until May. So it was almost as if like the snow was like pushing me away. It's like, leave already. I'm gonna keep making it snow until you finally leave.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's like interesting how like the elements can also like teach you about like presence and forgiveness and patience, and just like how you can dive deeper within yourself by just accepting, that today is a gloomy day, or that today is a day like this. um so that way you kind of like learn with it. I think I learned that a lot here in Hawaii because the weather always changes. It's like sometimes you make plans with friends to go on a hike, but then it's like raining and pouring. So I've learned to just wake up, feel the day, and then kind of just go about it in that sense of like where to go, or what to do.
Yeah, we humans, we can really adapt, and it's really amazing. And I'm throwing this out there because here I am in Portland. Now, I've been in the Southwest for months. And so it's either
Mhm.
Arizona, New Mexico, LA, even San Francisco. And it's like sunny every day, right? Like San Francisco isn't sunny
Yeah.
every day, but it gets to be that way after a certain date. Then it's sunny every day. And then they were like, it was supposed to rain while I was there one day, and they're just like, it sure is late for rain, isn't it? That's weird. Why is it so late for rain? I was like, what? Okay. So anyway, so I got really used to this constant sun, and any day that it wasn't sunny, I was upset, sort of like, what's going on? Why is it cloudy? Why, it's like
Yeah.
hundreds of days in a row of sun, and I stand, I'm like, what? Cloudy? No way. So anyway, now of course I'm in Portland, where it's cloudy every day, and it's, at the very least, it's partly cloudy. Yes, there's some sun, but there's giant,
Mhm.
dark clouds right next to the sun. It's a really strange experience. But anyway, I'm already adapting to that. I'm already getting used to that, and it's not a big deal. So our adaptability is absolutely incredible in that we can adapt to any negative situation. At the same
Yeah.
time, our adaptability is incredible at getting used to any positive situation. Think about the first time you get a big screen TV and you're like, yay, I'm going to watch my favorite movie. And you put it on, and the credits, or, the opening scenes credit thing is going, and you're just like, wow, it's so big. Like, wow, I have to like turn my head to see the whole screen. And then within 30 seconds after the movie has started, you've completely forgotten about how big the screen is. Like, you adapt to that so fast that you
Mhm.
don't even appreciate it. And it was that same way when I moved into the house on the river. At first it was just like, this is so cool that I live on a river. This is amazing. How
Yeah.
quickly did I adapt to that? Very fast. So
Mhm.
now what you have to do is find gratitude, do the gratitude practice. Oh, right.
Mhm.
So grateful that I live on this amazing river. I'm so grateful that I have this giant TV to enjoy this show or whatever. So really, I do love our adaptability, but I also, you have to be aware of it. Otherwise, it works against you as well.
Yeah. I mean, like for me here, like almost when it rain, like it like rains, but like when it does rain, it makes me like appreciate time for rest in a way. It's like it's okay to just, take a nap, or it's okay to just, be a little bit lazier, because I was just usually when there's sun, it's like I'm always at a go, go, go pace. It's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then when it finally like is cloudy or is like raining, it's like, okay, thank you, Earth, for telling me to just like calm down a little bit, for
Yeah.
just to have a day inside and to reflect or to read a book or to just do something else. It's almost like the weather is like watching out for us in a way, or maybe there has to be some sort of clearing that needs to be done if it's like a pretty hazardous type of weather or type of storm. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's an
Yeah.
interesting way to connect with your higher self and what the elements are teaching us.
Yeah, I like what you just said there too, because you do things in a very, very like you're receiving a sign sort of way. And I really like that when it comes to things like that. Okay, you could say, oh man, it's cloudy and it's rainy. Boo, you know what? My life is miserable because this always happens to me, right? Like that's that victim mindset. But I like your approach so much because you go, oh, this is happening for me. I am going to take advantage of this cloudy day. I'm going to make some tea. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to take a nap. Like you can get excited about the negative, what you might have considered negative, and you can even look at it and, to take it even further. What you're saying is, this is the universe telling me something, right? Oh, it's telling me to relax. It's telling me to take this moment for myself, and that's also very beautiful. And it's the only thing you want to watch out for is waiting for a sign, right? Like you don't want to go, well, I don't want to do anything. I don't know what I should do. I'm waiting for a sign. Well, you might not get the sign that you're necessarily looking for if you really haven't tuned into it well enough. So you might want to follow your excitement instead. But man, being able to react and respond to the way the world delivers you messages in a positive way is a beautiful combination of you seeing signs and then being mentally healthy no matter what sign you get.
Yeah, it's definitely me not looking for a sign. I don't really look for signs, but I do
Right.
look for I don't really look for stuff, but it's more like just seeing what comes through and then just like I guess talking to it to see if it even resonates with me, or I guess to see if it is a sign or not a sign. But yeah, no, it's an interesting way that I like to live my life. It's definitely taken me some time to like figure out that this actually makes me happy. Just to like wake up and feel and just like go about with to really like check in. I really check in with myself a lot more. I remember when I first moved here, I used to work like retail, and like I was just so excited to do so many hikes. I would take people on hikes because I was like the hiking girl, the one that did like crazy things. And so I would always surf like almost every other day, and like I was always like doing stuff for other people. But then I started like realizing like wait, like I'm actually like pretty tired. I need to like start saying no. And then I was like so empowered by saying no, or to like finally just like do stuff just for me, or I would also kind of like, what's that word, where I would reflect on like if this actually makes me happy, or if this is just something that I just do just to show off to people that I do it. So it was a lot like I was like,
cool, yeah.
Hawaii is like amazing. Like you just learn so much about yourself. I think that's why like I haven't even left, because I feel like I haven't like finished learning what I need to learn or what I need to like do next. But yeah, I feel like I find like the bliss in really just tuning in to really seeing if this resonates with me or not. It's the same thing with food. I always ask the food like, oh, are you like serving me or are you not serving me? And it's fun to like go with the food that isn't serving me and then see how like my body reacts. It's like, oh, well, this is why I'm bloated, or this is why I don't feel good right now. It's because I had this and I already foreshadowed for this to happen. But it's not like me being miserable or me being judgmental that I did it. It's more of like a fun, like, haha, like I already knew the consequence of it. But then it's like, it's a learning thing. Then like the next time something like this approaches, I'm going to listen to that voice that says no, or don't eat this certain food, because you already know how you're going to feel. I get that with coffee all the time because I like the taste of coffee and I like the smell of coffee, but coffee always just gives me really bad anxiety. So it's like once in a while I'll treat myself, but even though I know that it's going to be turned into like a negative thing. It's just, I guess it's like a fun refresher to get myself out of the norm that I normally do in a way.
Well, yeah, you were taking a scientific approach there, which was kind of cool. You were saying, oh, my body is saying that this is not good for me or whatever. It's not going to serve me. And you're like, well, I'm going to have it anyway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you go, oh, wow. Yeah, that the message that I received was correct. And so then you can trust that message more. And so I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it, because again, you don't have to take it so seriously. You can play, you can experiment, you can try things and try not things and, whatever. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's like a test B, test, or test A, test B type of thing. And I've done that. I've done it a lot just to like get more in tune with my intuition, is to really like follow it and then not follow it, and then like really not follow it to really figure out like if this is my true voice or this is not my true voice. I wish I had this concept better when I was in school, like taking tests, because I feel like it would have helped me. But like, it's cool. I think it's better or more beneficial for like that balance within my life, to like really recognize when I'm off, my energy is off, or when my energy is like on track. And it's easier now to get my energy back to where I like it to be, because I understand what my body likes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
You do that with yourself or no?
You broke up when you said that. You do that with what?
I said, do you do that with yourself? Do you like test out your intuition or see what you
Oh,
like?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I just like that you described it so well. Yeah, but at the same time, I also just use that highest excitement approach so much. I use it constantly, and things just keep getting better and better in my life as a result of using that. I know it for sure. So, if I'm excited about, oh, let's do it this and let's do it that way, then things usually work out. And I'm working with a new coach recently, and he was saying, like, of all the things that you do in your business, what do you like the most? And I was like, oh, wow, that's a great question, because there's a lot of things that we have to do in a business that we don't like. But that question, I went, well, I love teaching the class, and Onion Man, who's here with us right now, is in my current one, and he knows that I just keep it going. Like, the class is only supposed to be like an hour and a half, but the one on Tuesday, we just kept going. We went 3 hours, and people are still asking questions. We were just having a blast. Like, I could just do that all day. Like, there's no stopping. So that shows me what I really want to do with this. And I want to have lots of students, and I want to be able to help them as much as possible and have that interaction. It's, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Onion Man's like, yeah, that got kind of crazy. And it was great because he, in particular, I was finally at 3 hours. I was like, okay, I think I'm done. And he goes, oh my gosh, I've been holding this question for a long time. Right. Like, so then it continued. So.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it was really good. So the other thing, there was something that you had said a minute ago that I thought was really cool. Unless you wanted to comment on that, what do you like to do versus what you don't like to do, before I kind of jump us back?
No.
Okay. So one thing that you had said, and I don't remember exactly how you stated it, but something I've really noticed is that in the moment, we are not as unhappy as we are average or overall. If we are in an unhappy sort of situation, then and here's the evidence for that. I'll just step back. At the beginning of every class, I ask my students what their suffering scale is. And so this is just like a number from 1 to 10 that you might see at a hospital, 10 being the worst pain and 1 being like no pain. And so, but I just call it suffering. So it's not necessarily physical pain, but it's just emotional, physical suffering. So what usually happens is, on that first question I ask, what is the average that you experience over a certain amount of time, like over the last month or over the last week or whatever? That number is generally, almost every time, that number is pretty high, is higher than how do you feel right this second. So if somebody's at a 4 overall, then they'll be at a 2 right this second. If they were at a 9 overall, they'll be at a 5 right this second. So,
Mhm.
and that happens every single time. I don't know. Nobody has ever said my average is 5, but right now I'm an 8, right? It's always lower. And so and the other thing that's really important that I teach is the gratitude practice.
Yeah.
So you can at any moment be in gratitude for absolutely anything. Things could be going super wrong and you can go, well, yeah, but I'm grateful that I have my comfortable bed that I can lay on and cry on or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like you can always find that. So I really feel that when we live in the moment, we are always going to be at a lower suffering number than if we live in the average or we live in the future or we live in the past. And that's just more evidence to support that.
Um, so I'm 50-50 on that, only because I had a really bad injury that had a lot of pain in it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the moment, I would still feel that high pain. So I guess you call it that high suffering level. But I would actually do the opposite. I would actually kind of reflect on a time that I didn't feel the pain. So I would kind of go back and forth between the two, usually in the moment. Or I would really like talk to that pain to see like where would it actually feel good, or like I would like in the moment when I would feel that high intensity, like I would actually see where I am in my day. Like, where am I that's making this pain be so bad? And then when that pain was less in a certain type of moment, I would actually then see that that was actually more of my authentic self. I was more being my authentic self. So I kind of used pain more as a tool, or the suffering as a tool to figure out if this was something that I was inauthentically surrounding myself in, or was I actually authentically kind of being where this pain was like pretty intense. And then
Right.
that's how I've kind of learned to dabble with that suffering thing. But
Mm-hmm.
like in the moment, like now that I don't have that pain in my body anymore, then that is more relatable with the suffering is definitely lower than what maybe I felt in the past, or if something was going on in the week. Because in the moment you're technically kind of perfect, you're okay, you're whole. But if you're kind of suffering with a chronic injury, that is actually going to be trickier for someone to
Yeah.
say that their pain level is lower or their suffering is lower in the moment, because it actually could be super, super beyond super like dominant with something that like I had. So
Most of it.
it's like a 50-50 chance. So it's like I feel like the first question is, do you have any pain in your body? And then I think that suffering might be scalable in a different way, because you could also detach someone, be like, okay, if you have this physical pain right now, can you try to tap into a different emotion and see if there's a suffering aside from the physical pain? Because there's a physical, mental, and spiritual. So like maybe your mental suffering is actually okay, but your physical pain is really high, which is what's absorbing everything around you.
Yeah.
So there's
I
yeah.
think that my groups are generally not in much physical pain. I think that they're mostly
Mhm.
in emotional and mental pain. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think that's so consistent across the board. Like I
Mhm.
don't generally have people who, so to answer Sam, he was asking like what class do I teach?
Mhm.
And the main one is called Detached, and it is born from negative entity attachments. People who have negative entity attachments come to this to remove them. um, as most people realize pretty soon after they get started, it's really an ascension class, and really
Mhm.
what we're doing is we're raising their vibration and we're bringing them through this ascension process, so that negative entities aren't even an issue anymore. You don't even think
Yeah.
about it because they're actually somewhat minor. They're a symptom of a bigger problem, and it's the bigger problem that we work toward. So Sam,
Mhm.
if you're interested, you don't have to have a negative entity attachment to join the class, because the original class was just an ascension class. But because the YouTube videos about removing negative entities got so popular, I ended up getting more and more people. So I kind of adapted the ascension class to be a
Mm.
little bit more about negative entities. So yeah, so that's kind of how that
And
works.
that's usually an emotional and a mental type of states, or type of, what are they called, like characteristics that you're working with there. because you're not working with people that have like physical pain.
Not usually.
Yeah. So like I'm just saying that as a way to differentiate things, because like maybe there are people in your classes that maybe do have physical pains. Maybe that's just something that maybe you can try to kind of
well, it's suffering in
monitor.
general. Yeah, it's suffering in
Mhm.
general. It's not just mental or emotional. It's any kind of suffering. So yeah, but yeah, I could definitely add a little bit more to see if there's anybody who's suffering from physical pain.
Yeah. But, no, cool concept. I like it. But
Yeah,
right now, definitely, yeah.
it is really cool to see the suffering change over time. You know, like usually the first week it's really bad, and at the end of the class they're like, "Yeah, I feel great," and then and it kind of goes up and down. It waves at the beginning, and then it starts to really drop by the end of the 7 weeks. Then people are like, "Oh, I'm at a 2, I'm at a 1, I'm at," and it's just consistent every time that's what happens over the period of the class. So that's a wonderful indicator for anybody who's kind of like, am I getting better? And then they do the numbers and they're like, oh yeah, I'm getting a lot better. Maybe it's not as obvious, but yeah, actually I am, because you also forget. Like that's the other thing, is that you forget how bad it was, and you think, oh no, I've been like this all along. And you're like, oh wait, no, you're right. I was at 10s and 8s and 9s, and now I'm at 2s and 1s and 3s. Yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah, I don't remember that past, or I guess that past self of mine that had all of that pain in my body. It actually happened after the ayahuasca, because the ayahuasca retreat that I went to, it's kind of what kind of helped me not have that pain anymore after like 3.5 years. But I remember like waking up, I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel this pain. Like, what is this silence in my head? Like, why? Like, there's no static noise of like pain. So it was definitely like spooky in a way, because I got so like like that pain was just so normal for me that it was just like I don't even know what to do with myself, because like my body was almost like practically cured. So it's definitely interesting that like that time kind of just, it does truly like heal you, because you're going to go through an experience that's going to help you. Or at least that injury that I had, it wasn't a mistake that I went surfing that time for the first accident that I had, but it taught me to get closer with my intuition. It taught me to understand my body more, and it taught me all of these things. So it's like in the moment, yeah, I was angry that at the time the guy that I was seeing was like cheating on me, so that's why it kind of all like triggered. So like I was angry that this guy was cheating on me, but then I like gained my intuition out of it. Like I gained so much more of myself, just because something so tragic was happening to me at the time. So it goes in line with what Onion Man was saying, that like with his mistake, like, yeah, like your mistake might be super bad right now, but you are definitely going to be gaining something like truly remarkable out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you just got to be open and receptive to it, like in the next coming like weeks or months, to whatever life is going to give you.
Right, exactly. What it's going to have for you, as opposed to what it's going to do to you, right? Like to borrow that.
I was like, give. I said give, and I was like, that doesn't sound right, but
right, yeah, give you. Yeah. Well, okay, so we're already down to like 3 minutes to go. What do you got going on this week, Monika?
I'm actually redoing my website, so I'm going to be having some new products. I should be launching like next week. So my website is, as you can see if you're tuning in, monikakupiec.com. It's my first name, last name.com. But don't go on it now.
Okay, I'm not going to put. I was like typing it into the.
Don't go on it now.
Go to monikakupiec.com. I mean, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take it down soon, and then I'm going to like relaunch it. But that's what I've been working on this past like weeks. And then I'm working on a couple new concepts of paintings, which are pretty, they're going to be pretty healing. Let's just say that.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, you got to show us more of those. You probably have more that you haven't shown off to us in a while, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do another show and tell of those.
What I'm up to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Xane?
So yeah, so I'm not doing my free workshop. I'm going to take a little break from that. I'm taking a slightly different approach. Like I said, I'm working with a new coach, and so I've created a Facebook group that is kind of like a private Facebook group for people with negative entity attachments and things that they're suffering from. And we're going to kind of work in there a little bit more like over time rather than just a 1 hour little thing. We're going to do more, more suggestions, more ideas, more group help and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a free group. So I'm going to throw the link to the actual class in case Sam or anybody else is interested in that. And then I'll put the link to the Facebook group as well. Whoop, why did it just delete itself? Facebook.
And then I guess if anyone wants to see my art, I'm mainly on Instagram where I post all my things. So that one's at Island Awakening, which is also my YouTube channel name. So that one you see like I show like the behind the scenes, what I'm working on. You'll see some of my new stuff. I mainly work on custom pieces that people request, and I channel a lot of messages in the painting. So you actually receive lots of great clearings and healings from just looking at them, or if you buy a piece, then I add a little extra just for you.
Nice. Oh, Onion's asking if you're doing a meditation today.
Oh, I actually canceled the Thursdays. I'm not doing that one, but there's tons of replays in the group. It's the Island Awakening Ohana. So I just keep all of them live. So you can just tune into the one that I just did yesterday. They're getting really nice. So I've been liking doing that consistently. I feel like having a consistent meditation practice is actually pretty dope. So.
Oh yeah, what a surprise!
Right? What a surprise! I mean, like a formal one. So, like, obviously, we always meditate, like, here and there. But I guess setting 30 minutes to 45 minutes for yourself is definitely beneficial. Definitely a nice type of charge.
Oh, Anna is asking this question. We're out of time, but I do want to say that I've got a couple of videos on this on YouTube. It's talking to the master or speaking to the voice within. I will send you a link, Anna, after this is all done, so you can check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Sam says thank you to us. So interesting. Yes, you too, Sam. Have a wonderful and amazing day.
I hope everybody has a wonderful and amazing day.
Yeah. We will see you next week.
Aloha.
Bye, everybody.